Krause, and um, Annabelle asked me. Annabelle's out of town. She asked me to cover the call today. I want to share with you guys the multi-housing news newsletter because number one, it's free, and anyone can just jump on it, get some information. I actually don't subscribe to this. I think I have signed up for some of their newsletters, which is right here, but that's what you should be seeing right now. One of my favorite things to do is to go into the section called markets. And the reason why that's my favorite is because there's a couple markets that I really like. The only one that I actually think, the only tab I've never used is the international tab. But I like to see the West, like to see the South, the Midwest. I read. I really look at see what's going on in the Northeast myself because I'm not doing any investing there. I'm not looking to do any investing there. But by all means, this free newsletter is probably one of the more what I call detailed newsletters, probably up there with bigger pockets when it comes to multi-housing news. So just as an FYI, I like to use this myself. Quick question for everybody who's on the call right now. William and who else do we have on the call? I can't even see all the names, but can you guys give me an idea, like who has already invested in multifamily? You can put it on the chat and just say me. You don't have to necessarily unmute yourself, but if you at least can tell me, that would help me to understand at what level people are at, so I can try to make this kind of tailored to everybody's needs here.
Well, I can tell you that I've advised on multifamily. I'm in the midst of going into investing in multifamily. And so I'm, with the knowledge that I've been gaining, I'm hoping to, take it even further. So yeah, I'm looking at a couple of deals, but I've had clients who I've helped to obtain multifamily properties.
Sounds good. Is that William?
Yes.
Okay, good. And William, what part of the market, what part of the nation do you invest in, or are you targeting and advising on?
Well, I've advised in the Northeast, which most people don't like, but I have those who have bought several buildings in the Northeast. But I'm looking at the Southwest, from Texas, as well as this mid-Atlantic, when you start talking about North Carolina, South Carolina. So,
okay, great. If anyone else is, in addition to William, active, if you have already invested in multifamily real estate, can you just throw in the chat me? All you have to do is just say me. And if you haven't, don't worry about it. Not a problem for those who are coming on late. I'm just trying to get a feel for everyone's background. I'll give you guys a little bit of my background while some more folks are coming on. So I primarily in 2006 got invested and involved in real estate in the residential market. And I stayed in the residential markets a real long time. And I did not decide to start getting active in the multifamily world until about 2019. I had tried to dabble in it prior to that, but what was definitely missing for me was I had no action plan. I didn't really have a mentor, and I certainly didn't have any idea how I was going to pay for those properties. What I decided to do, though, is I decided to get educated. This was one of what you guys see right here, multi-housing news. This is one of the resources of many that I started trying to learn more about how I could get involved and how I could get invested. And I'm sharing this because number one, it's free. It's free. It's a free tool. But the second thing is that the information is timely. It's constantly being updated. It's kind of like what I would consider to be a little bit more of like a bigger pockets for multifamily investing. So by all means, I put this in the chat already. Open it up, save it, make it a favorite. There's a ton of information in here. And when I first started getting involved, it was the articles that I was reading that helped me to figure out what part of the market I really wanted to be invested in, whether it be the West or the South or the Midwest. So you're going to see a lot of information with a lot of the bigger names. That's okay. That information is very, very useful, because even though like some of these deals might be, you know, multi-million, and maybe you're not looking to do that initially, or maybe you're not looking to do that necessarily right away. What this does do is it will give you at least a flavor of what's just happening in the world of multifamily, so that if you decide that this is something you want to be involved with, you at least know who some of the bigger players are. You may not want to do what they're doing, but it's a good idea to know how they're doing deals, where they're doing deals, the locations of the deals. My attitude about it was, if big money is going into, like, let's just say, for example, here's a perfect one. You know, if they're going into the Dallas area, I wanted to know, well, what part of Dallas were they going into? Or if they were going into Orlando and they were doing luxury, okay, fine. Why were they doing luxury in Orlando? Like, where was it specifically that they were doing? There's so many different parts of multifamily investing that you can be involved with. And this is an easy way for you just to get an idea of different places to get started. So I'll pause there for one sec. Oh, one thing I also wanted to mention too is, it was because of this newsletter. That's why I wanted to get into student housing, and finally did, and got a great property over by the University of Arizona with some partners. So this is multi-housing news. Anybody have any questions about that, or any feedback, comments? All right, not a problem. So I'm going to move on then. And again, if anyone has already made some investments, or they're looking, or yeah, if they've made some investments in multifamily, just say me in the chat, because again, I just want to kind of get an idea of the background of some of the folks on the call. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself, where I chose to get invested first. And where I chose to get invested was with a partner in Chicago. The reason why I chose Chicago was because I, after doing some research, quite a bit of research really, Chicago is a very dense apartment type community. It's the apartment community is really an industry there. The apartment industry in Chicago, it's kind of like New York and Boston, and in some ways, you know, some of the other metros, like Miami, certain parts of Miami, where the density really provides great opportunities for every type of investor, large, medium, and small. Okay, what I'm showing you is a finished product, a couple pictures of one of my very first forays into Chicago with some partners. And this was a property that we had fixed up. It was mostly abandoned. This was a 14-unit building. It was mostly abandoned. There was one tenant out of 14 still living there. And when I went to do my visit, my on-site visit to Chicago, I spent a couple days there, and this was the last building I had seen, last part of the day, end of the day, starting to get dark. And now that I think about it, the lights didn't even work in most of the apartments. But of what we could see, I could tell that the bones were really solid in this apartment. So absolutely, we did some numbers very quickly as we kind of ran through each unit, because we were lucky enough to basically see every single unit other than the one that the one tenant was in. And we jumped down into the mechanical room to see the situation with the gas meters, the electric meters, the water meters. We liked that there was a lot of separate metering going on, so that meant that we would be able to transfer a lot of cost over to the tenants. So the tenants have to pay, their own gas, their own electricity. That's a big deal, especially since the air conditioning in the system in the building is being paid for by the tenant, which is another really, really big deal. So this is what our typical property looked like. So this was about an $800,000, not even quite $800,000 investment, 14 units. So obviously we're buying for quite a bit less than 100,000 a unit. And when we put a marketing package together, we wanted to just get an idea using one of the local brokers to see where we might trade this unit for. In other words, once we got finished remodeling it, what we might be able to sell it for. And this property was a $300,000 budget. It was a little bit less than an $800,000 purchase, and we thought it would bring in somewhere between $1.7 million, $1.8 million. As you can see from the conclusion on the appraisal, when we had the appraisal done, the appraisal came in at $1.725 million, which in actuality, we thought that was maybe even a little bit low. However, the first appraisal that we got, the appraiser wouldn't even look at the income that we were bringing in on the property. They would only look at the amount of money that we paid and the amount of money that we put into it, which makes no sense because obviously no one would ever go into doing any kind of remodeling ever if their only return was going to be what they paid plus what they put into it. I mean, there's no money left for profit. So why would anyone ever take that risk? It would make no sense at all. But one of the first appraisers we had, they actually did that. So this was our second appraisal. We were happy with this appraisal. We took it. We refinanced the building. We had it. It was already stable. It was rent stable at that point, and put long-term debt on the property. So that's how that deal first turned out, and we've done multiple since then. So that's a little bit about how I got involved with my first one. Any questions? Yeah, stop me for anything. This is meant to help everybody on the call and answer any questions about how to put a deal together, how to find one, whatever you guys want to focus on. I'm happy to talk about it with you.
Was this that deal that you look at building codes that you enter into Chicago, or is this another deal?
That's a good question. This one did not have a building violation. The very next building that we went after this one had a building violation of lead paint. And that's how we knew we wanted that property, because we figured if we could abate the lead paint issue, essentially make the lead paint issue go away, then by all means, the idea was that we could show the city in a very short period of time that all the lead paint was gone. And then what we could do is we could then turn that building, which was an 8-unit building, we could turn that into a very livable, housable apartment. And so far, we are about, I would say, 80% done with that building. Still a little bit of way to go, but not that much further. So yes, looking for any kind of building code violations is absolutely a great way to not only get a good price, but to also really dig into something where you can build some value, because that property was absolutely being sold below market because it had the violation. So you have a good memory. Any other questions from folks? Okay, cool. Pretty easy. I want to go back to the newsletter now. I'm going to let Mark in here. And I'm just kind of curious, where are people kind of interested in investing? Because I would like to try to give a real life example of what's going on in the marketplace. These are the different product types, by the way, in the multi-housing newsletter. Senior housing, student housing, affordable housing, luxury market. I'm getting more interested these days in student housing. I really like the student housing platform. I like that community. We've got a great building, so we're building up a ton of experience. And what I do like seeing is what the very large players are doing in this space. Um, Kane Anderson closing $1.9 million debt. I'm sorry, $1.9 billion of debt, covering multifamily, student, senior, and self storage. That would be a great article to try to figure out. Okay, where are, like, what cities are they taking that risk? Because if they're willing to place $1.9 billion in debt in different parts of the country, that tells me that they feel very comfortable with the risks, even with everything that's going on in the marketplace right now. Everybody probably saw the stock market really crash down today. You guys did, right? Yeah, it had a tough day. But so like I was saying, if you haven't made an investment already, one of the great things about using this newsletter is you can find out where the large players are putting large debt, what cities that they might be in placing that debt. Are the being specific with just one particular company, or are they kind of just spread it all over the place? Let me go back to.
Well, is that note buying? Is that buying the commercial notes?
So I'm not involved with any commercial note buying. I'm strictly interested in the real estate. But what I like to do is I do like to see where large amounts of debt might be refinancing, older debt. Because if I see billions and billions of dollars going into certain markets, especially for the purpose of replacing older previous debt or maturing debt, that tells me that those lenders are very comfortable with those risks, and depending upon what that product model is, it might be student housing, it could be elderly communities, it could be growth communities. But I like to see where the money is going, because if there's billions and billions of dollars going somewhere, it means someone's done a lot of research already, and we all can't do the kind of research that a large institution can do. So what we can do is we can piggyback on their homework, so to speak, and try to find out where they're putting debt. Because if they're putting billions and billions of debt in a particular area, it's because they're comfortable with the risk. There's no way that a Wall Street firm, if they're going to finance, commercial debt, there's no way they're going to take chances if they think that it's going to sink into the ocean tomorrow. We all know that.
So follow the money trail.
I absolutely believe in that. I really do. If you're still looking for, where do you want to go, that's one of the ways to do it. This is North Carolina Central University. The Carolinas have been super hot, even in the residential markets. So this should really, right here, this should come as no surprise. So that's a way that if you haven't already figured out where you're going to start looking, we'll find out where the debt is being retired and being replaced. That's a great way to do it. Another way is to figure out if land is being developed. We'll find out what cities land is being turned into something that is going to be housing oriented. Because if they're willing to take a chance on a housing development from land, we all know land is just a raw commodity. But when you start improving that land and you start implementing plans to put housing in there, well, then now you're making it usable in a much different way. You would really only get that kind of backing if the risks were easily measured by the lenders that are making that money available, the capital available to make that money available. So I do like to pay attention to wherever there's any kind of land development as well. Charleston, I've actually heard that the South and Charleston, Georgia, these are places that not only did well residentially, but also in the multifamily space. Mixed use grocery, shopping centers. Okay, so think about, just think about that note right there. Mixed use, grocery anchored shopping center type properties with conventional multifamily, 357 beds. Later on, as you start getting more involved with, really understand the details of how student housing works, it's all about, the per bed cost, because beds are actually, they're building out for beds. If you buy a 20 unit or a 30 unit, it's really still based upon your number of units. But when you start getting up to 567 beds, now it's by the bed. So that's stuff that you learn by reading industry rags like this to learn a little bit more about how the much larger institutions price not only their development, but then what they're going to sell those developments for. Let's see if we can find some sales. I'm going to click back here. Oh, actually, this is a good article right here. Blackstone plans to take ACC private. So there's a couple things just to pay attention to right away. Anything that Blackstone does, pay attention to, because Blackstone is one of the largest capital companies in this world. Okay, like whatever Blackstone is doing or have their hands on, that is noteworthy because they are controlling a lot of capital. They're trying to put a lot of capital to work. So anything that Blackstone alone is touching is noteworthy. Here's 111,000 beds with a total of 203 properties. Actually, no, it's 140,000. They're taking ACC private. So what would be interesting to know is, where is ACC and where are all the locations of ACC if you don't already know? Because now what you can find out is, okay, Blackstone is basically taking over all of these beds. That is what's happening. And as you can see here, when you scroll down, they're at Texas at Austin, Florida State University, and the University of California, Berkeley. These are some of the major assets, and about 24% located on campus. So 24% of the ACC portfolio is located on campus. Everything else is off campus. I think off-campus opportunities are absolutely the best. So this is great information to know about. So if you're thinking about some places to invest, especially from an income perspective, I would start with Florida State University, then Texas, and then last California, Berkeley. So it just depends, what your strategy is and what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to get income only? Are you trying to get growth mostly? Or are you trying to get a combination of the both? So this is some good information right here. Questions, comments?
So I'm assuming the ACC, I'm not to monopolize anybody's time. Anybody else want to ask questions? But when I saw ACC, I'm thinking of the ACC division in sports or ACC schools. So in addition to that, the off-campus housing, that's what Blackstone is doing.
Yeah, they're buying the portfolio, and this right here is another clue about how serious they are to own. So in order to acquire preferred apartment communities, which was 44 properties, 12,000 units, so now they're doing it by unit. It's either beds or units. They are investing $5.8 billion. And yeah, that is a lot of, that is serious money. Now they're saying tier one markets. You may not know what a tier one market is, but your MSAs are typically your tier one markets. So what are those? Well, that could be Dallas, that could be LA, that could be Miami, that could be New York, that could be Chicago, that could be San Francisco. Those would be tier one markets. I don't think necessarily you have to be in a tier one market to make money in student housing in multifamily, but that's certainly a great way to reduce your risk in case you're concerned that, if there's a COVID lockdown in the future or something like that that could potentially hurt your investment. Well, fine, just go to a tier one market, and that's how you offset that risk. Here's another $6 billion. Last year, $6 billion when Home Partners was acquired. I think this is one of Blackstone's REITs. So that's why I'm saying to you, by all means, follow the elephants into the jungle, so to speak. They leave massive, giant footprints telling everybody what they're doing, where they're going. It's not hard to find this information. And if you're trying to find certain markets to invest in where you can reduce your risk, these are the people to follow. Follow your way over there. Maybe you end up with an 8 unit that's at one of the universities or colleges that Blackstone owns 44 properties. And now their properties might be a minimum of 500 doors, or what we call units, or they're they could even do it by the bed, 600 beds, whatever. But that's why I'm saying this is such a great resource, because you find where the elephants are going. Why are they doing it? Because they've already measured the risk. You don't have to do all that homework. You're still going to do your own due diligence to make sure that you buy your real estate correctly. But this is a great way to find opportunity, to find markets to go into, and rely upon essentially the work of institutions that would take us forever to figure out on our own. So questions? Any other feedback?
Other than Blackstone, what are the other big corporations that do this that people should be on the lookout for?
Well, I can't even tell you every single one, because there are a lot of mid-size. There's a lot of mid-size players that are in the industry, and I got to zoom. Sorry. Yeah, there are a lot of mid-sized players that honestly, I don't know them all. The reason why I know Blackstone is because that's a company I used to work for, and they owned Invitation Homes when I was at Invitation, and I got to know them extremely well. If you don't know who the big players are, one of the best ways to go about trying to figure out, let's just take market rate investing. Market rate investing is where you're just trying to maximize value. The next thing I would do, honestly, is I would just look at the raw numbers. So let's just say, for example, okay, you got a Richmond community at $50 million. Well, how many units is that? Well, let's take a look here. So they have a 192 unit community. It's $50 million. So the way you do the math on that is you just say 50,300,000 or 3 million divided by 192 units. So they bought that at $261,000 a unit. Generally, I will tell you that I try to buy at 100,000 a unit or less. If I go a little bit over, I'm fine. If I go a lot under, even better. But I try to buy at 100 grand. I would only get invested in a $261,000 per unit investment if I thought somehow, after doing my remodeling and doing everything else, I was going to end up at 400,000. And the way I do that is I almost double my numbers, because when I get done with remodeling, like I was saying at the very beginning of the call, I don't want to just put money into it and have it be worth what I paid plus my construction. I want to build equity. It's very possible that this 261 in this particular marketplace is what they call market, which means that per square foot, if I wanted and you wanted to go, say, for example, to go buy a condo in this market at the same amount of square footage as these apartments, they would be very close in value. They wouldn't be exact, okay? The apartment is obviously going to be a little bit cheaper, But the reason why I'm saying you can use condos as examples is because in some of these, what they call market rate complexes, they are remodeling them to condo standards. And in some cases, condo plus, like over the top. Some of the improvements that they're doing to get to that level, it's not just about what they're doing with the units themselves, but it's also right down here. The amenities include a swimming pool, a fitness center, a tennis court, volleyball court, car wash. Some of them have dog runs. Some of them have dog parks. Some of them, I mean, they have valet service. So to get to market rate, you do all these value add things in addition to have amazing square footage, amazing floor plan, amazing finishes. Usable views, great use of equipment, so that you're taking advantage of. For example, if you have a beautiful view of, let's just say, a downtown area, that that they're using Fleetwood doors, for example, instead of some fixed door that you can't go out on some balcony or some terrace. Fleetwood are the best ones in the industry. So. So your question's a great one, and I know I kind of gave you the really long answer, but I think what's even better is, in addition to following some of the really giant names, is just see how much money is getting invested. Follow the money into those markets. And I don't know, is anyone here a EXP agent who has seen the Grant Cardone and A-Rod interview? Anybody? Just unmute yourself if you've seen it. No one? Okay. I highly recommend, if there's any Grant Cardone training that you pay for, even with EXP you don't have to, but even if you do pay for it, try to watch the Grant Cardone, A-Rod, what's his name? He was the baseball player, the New York Yankees baseball player. His name's escaping me for a second, but
which one? A-Rod?
A-Rod, yeah. What's his name again?
Alex Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Rodriguez, exactly.
Yes.
He was talking about how he makes his multifamily investments, and he said right there in the Grant Cardone interview, he looks to pay about $100,000 a unit for his complexes that he purchases, and he charges anywhere from $800 to $1,200 in rent. That is a great model just to follow. You don't have to be exact, but that is a great model to follow. I never knew that that's what A-Rod was doing. I just recently saw it about a month ago when it got released. Agents of EXP like myself can watch it for free. But even if you're not an EXP agent, by all means, that is a great interview. I think it was 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I don't know, but there are so many great tips and great ideas. That's a highly recommend. So the answer to your question is follow the money. It's even if you don't know the players, just follow the money. I just happen to know some of the big names. If Goldman Sachs is doing anything, if Blackstone's doing anything, if JP Morgan's doing something, if Carlyle Group is doing something, if KKR is doing something, if those are just names I know that when they make acquisitions, they're giant. They are absolutely giant. FPI. Let me see. Let's see. Greystone. Greystone actually, believe it or not, is a very large player. So a $20 million DC area community is not even a big community. But always break it down by the unit or by the door so that you at least have an idea. Hey, what did they pay per door for that property? Because ultimately, when you invest in multifamily, that's really what you're looking at, is what are you paying by the door. When we were buying our Arizona property with our partnership, we got to talk to the guy who was going to be doing the appraisal for the bank. And the very first question he asked me, other than the location, was, what is your price per door? And when I told him I was under 100 grand, he said, that's sounding like you're right in the money. So I knew our appraisal would come in and we'd have no difficulty closing that deal. And we didn't. It was great. It was easy. That was probably one of the easier ones. So Greystone has provided $20 million in Fannie Mae DUS financing. There's some homework for you. For Del Vista Apartments. So Greystone provided some funding, that's commercial funding, to a 322 unit multifamily property that's in Maryland. And previous property debt included 2 Fannie Mae loans, which totaled $18.9 million. So that sounds to me like a debt that was expiring and being replaced. So you just take your $20 million and divide by the number of units. And that is a community that goes for $62,111 a unit. One of the things that you can do, which I also like to do, I'll just share one more tip here, is let's see if we can find it. It's in Lanham, Maryland. This is an exercise I like to do here. So I'm going to first see if I can locate in Maryland what the zip code is. And it's 20706. So the next thing I like to do is 20706 median income. And I got to remember what that is. 20706. Because at $62,000 a unit, that's pretty cheap. As it turns out, in 2020, let's see, Maryland Demographics is my source. It says that the median income was 83 grand in 20706. Let's see if we have anything from the United States government, Bureau of Labor Statistics. If we don't, we don't. But it's always nice to have something to back it up. We at least have one source with Maryland Demographics. By the way, that MarylandDemographics.com, that could be a totally commercial site. That's why I'm not 100% relying on it. See if we can get another, let's see, Maryland hometown, USA. I really want to have sources that are reliable. Let's see. Hot pads. Look at hot pads, 74 grand. That changed pretty quick. Median household income, census.gov, $67,000. I'm satisfied with that. So that's an investment that if I was actually making an acquisition, that would be a no-brainer to literally run to that property to start my due diligence. And what would I be checking? I'd be checking things like, is there a state tax? What are the landlord-tenant laws here like? What is the property management license requirements like? What are the property taxes like? Some of the basic things, and then what is obviously trying to figure out, okay, am I going to keep that thing full? What are vacancies like in that particular part of town? I think we said that part of town is called Lanham, Maryland. I don't know anything about Maryland at all, other than the Baltimore Orioles play in Maryland. That's literally the only thing I know about Maryland. So yeah, so this is that would be a great lead source in my own opinion. I would want to find out absolutely, are there more properties for sale? Because at 60 something $1,000 a unit, the median income is right there at the national average. The national average is somewhere around 65, 67. So I'm perfectly satisfied that that's probably like a B neighborhood. Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Class B community.
Yes.
There you go. Great starting point. Is anyone near Maryland, by the way, on the call today, or in Maryland?
No, I go there frequently. I'm from New York, but I'm down there.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. Sounds kind of like a bedroom community to me because it's 13 miles northeast of Washington, D.C. So,
which is great.
Yeah, it's some kind of bedroom community to a major MSA. And if the income is 69 grand, which is very, very close to the United States median income, maybe a tad over, then that just, to me, that tells me, okay, this is probably a working class kind of bedroom community of some kind. And look, the amenities are very basic too. This is a community in which they're on 14 acres. They have a swimming pool, sun deck, playground, picnic area. I guarantee you the number one thing that's probably being used is the playground and the picnic area. So many times I'll see these swimming pools at these communities, they're not even being used. But that's more on the West Coast. The East Coast is a little bit different in that respect. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's in that area, they've been building around that area because it's near University of Maryland. And pretty much if you go up and down, you'll see new highways being built. I was just down there a month and a half ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, so they're replenishing the highways and pipelines. So a lot of good things are going on in that area. 13 miles from DC is even great because of knowing the prices of DC, and investing in something outside of DC is tremendous. So I can see them.
Like I said, I mean, it sounds so good to me that I immediately now want to know, okay, what are tenant landlord laws like? What are the property taxes like? What is the what was the vacancies like in this particular part of town? What does that actually look like? Is it easy to find handymen? Is it not easy to find handymen? Where else can I get $66,000 a door? I mean, literally, because that is sounds like a great opportunity. Now, here's the only thing to remember. 66 might be the market. So if you're buying at 66, you improving something that's at 66 might not go anywhere with respect to growing capital. When I say growing capital, growing equity. So those are things to pay attention to. I'd have to buy probably about 20 to 30% under market in order to really get excited and say, absolutely, this is where I'm going to have my next purchase, because I want to be able to grow that equity a good 20 to 30% when I get done. Why do I want to do that? Well, not only because we want to have some appreciation for some profit, but also to get any investors excited about this deal, you have to show them where the upside is. If you can't show where the upside is and you're just paying market and you're just buying income, then you're no different now than, say, one of these, patient money REITs, where they're just paying 6% or 7% or maybe 8% returns. And usually they're really more like around 6 to 7 at the most right now. We're not looking to be like a REIT. We don't have the luxury of managing trillions of dollars and putting that capital to work like that. So we have to manage what money we do get put in control of. We have to create equity opportunity. We have to get people excited. We got to get people interested. Thank you, by the way, to Jess, who put the Grant Cardone A-Rod 10X conference link up there, because that was just such a great, absolutely just such a great interview. And I think that anyone on this call would really benefit by watching that, because A-Rod speaks very frankly in that interview. He seems very genuine, not rehearsed. And I think people appreciate that more than something that's looks scripted or feels scripted. So, all right. So we're kind of coming up on the hour. Questions, comments, anything else that anyone else wants to cover today? Quiet group. Okay. That's all right. William, thanks for your feedback today. Thanks everybody for being on the call. Anna appreciates you guys joining every week. I learned a heck of a lot from Anna. She had a lot of experience before I even got into multi, and she really inspired me to get in up and running in the multifamily world on this very call. So I really appreciate her inviting me on. Thank you everybody for your time, attention, and we can answer any other questions. Put your comments in the chat below, and Jess can always forward them on to me. My name is Paul Krause, and I'm going to put my email up in the link. I host a call every Tuesday. It's mostly on remodeling. That's really my specialty in the real estate world. I did it in single family for a really long time, did over 600 houses, and I now do multifamily almost exclusively. I'm so busy. And join me every Tuesday at noon, where we do a call called Rehab Deals Tuesday. It's from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Just send me an email, and by all means, I'm happy to send you an invite for it. My name is Paul Krause, and I'll also leave my number if you want to text me as well. That's fine. So I have it in there. And thanks for everyone being on. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, I hope you guys have a great week.